Thank you, Mark, and a big hello from London. A more usual week last week for technical patterns, if there was ever such a thing. The vast majority of actions were in the currencies, but soybeans, sugar, and power also featured. So let's start with the weekly patterns in the currencies. And we had weekly key reversals down last week in the US dollar index, US dollar Swiss franc, US dollar Japanese yen, euro against the Japanese yen, the Chinese yuan, the onshore, against the Japanese yen, the US dollar against the Norwegian krona, the US dollar against the Russian ruble, the US dollar against the Indonesian rupiah, the US dollar against the Swedish krona, the US dollar Thai baht, US dollar Singapore dollar, US dollar Polish zloty, and US dollar Korean won. We also had weekly key reversals up in Kiwi dollar against the US dollar and euro against the Polish zloty. You can tell from all those that last week was primarily US dollar negative, but once again, much like the weekly key reversals up we saw overall in the dollar 4 weeks ago, there was no follow-through. No real follow-through to the weekly key reversals up seen 4 weeks ago, and seemingly no real follow-through this week so far to the weekly key reversals down we saw in the dollar formed last week. So what can we surmise from this? It would be easy to say that neither worked, but it's a lot more complicated than that. I suspect it may be that we have a bigger pattern, bigger than the weeklies we have seen, a bigger pattern in construction, which will likely show itself, maybe soon. I'll be watching out for that. Okay, so elsewhere, in the commodities, we had a weekly key reversal down in New York sugar futures last week. This is a complex market with many bearish factors on my daily chart affecting the market. I would just like to highlight two. The weekly key reversal down last week on the continuous daily charts, partially caused by changeover, and the monthly key reversal down we had in April, something I highlighted here in my commentary last week. There has been no follow-through lower this week to the weekly key reversal down, with prices recovering a little, but still within last week's range. Okay, so I have an open question to my audience, not just here, but generally. Is the recent action in New York sugar since mid-April a potential bearish halfway hesitation, or is it some form of bottoming action? I'm not sure, not yet. But I do see the hesitation in the market and the opportunities and risks it may provide. I also note that there was no such similar weekly key reversal down in London sugar futures, and that is worth remembering. You can learn more in my weekly sugar video commentaries published each Monday. On to Chicago soybean futures now. We had an awesome weekly key reversal up here last week, one that broke up through a number of significant resistances and made new highs not seen since the very first weeks of this year. I cover this story more fully in my weekly oilseeds and veg oils video commentary published this past Friday. I should note that there was no other weekly key reversals in either soybean meal futures or bean oil futures, though we have seen a similar move higher in meal to what happened in soybeans, and we almost, but not quite, made it to a weekly key reversal on bean oil last week. Finally, a power contract. The EEX German power base month futures had a weekly key reversal up last week. We saw a very limited follow-on higher early on, but which has now pulled back towards Friday's close. However, please note this action is in the shadow of April's monthly key reversal up and the basing action we have seen form here since mid-February. As always, I'm happy to answer any direct questions with anyone who's interested. And with that, I'll finish this section from London, and I hope that you found these comments useful.
Thank you for listening. This weekly broadcast gives the essential market patterns and consequences. Please be aware of the risk disclaimer posted both at the front and at the back of this broadcast. Copyright is Eddie Topic and ADM Investor Service International Limited. And here comes the final important bit.